Hey y'all, welcome back to Fitting and Homemaking. I hope everyone has had a very happy new year and a wonderful holiday season to this point. Hopefully everyone is feeling some good motivation with the new year and just making it through the holidays. I know I'm feeling particularly motivated this morning. This is going to be my first day back to work, so hopefully that will carry me through the day. But before that, I wanted to talk about my goals for this coming year. I don't really do New Year's resolutions because I think they're too easy to kind of cop out on earlier in the year. I feel like goals make me stick with them more, and then at the end of the year, it's definitely something that you assess versus New Year's resolutions. It's just, I know it's a semantics thing, but that's how my brain works, right? Goals are something you assess, and New Year's resolutions are just kind of like hopes and dreams to a certain extent. So I wanted to come on and talk to you guys about my goals for 2025. There are 4 main areas for these goals, so I'm going to try to go through them fairly succinctly. This is not my first time filming this video, and yeah, the other ones were just absolute crap, so I'm giving it another go without my notes, and we'll see what happens, okay? So goal number 1 is in the area of finance. As you can see, I am in my car. My main financial goal for this year is to pay off the loan on this car, right? I bought this car back in essentially November of 2022. I think it was the last couple days in October, actually. But let's say November 2022 for ease of reference. I had just gotten pregnant with my son, and I knew I was going to need a bigger car to be able to fit in 2 rear-facing child seats in the back. And yeah, it wasn't a great time to buy a car financially, like interest rate wise and supplies wise, but I found a car that I really liked, and decided to do it sooner in my pregnancy rather than later because I knew my son was going to be starting daycare at 6 months old. So I wanted to try to pay down the loan before he went into daycare and have more time to do that. So that's why I ended up buying at a time that was not a great time to buy a car. But here we are. So it's been a couple of years since I've had the car now, and I have not done as much work paying it down as I would have liked. It is a 72-month loan, which is just insane that they offer those, but I took that loan because I knew cash flow was going to be tight, so I wanted to get the safest cash flow option possible for me with the smallest loan payment, knowing that I was going to be working to pay down the loan before the due date. So my loan does not mature, or it's not due until November 2028. But I would like to pay off the car by the end of the year, so December 2025, and have it be more like a 3-year loan. Now, this is a stretch goal because, like I said, I did not do as much work towards this as I should have in the very beginning of the loan, and we're just going to try to get it done this year. I don't know if it's going to happen, so this is one where I'm not okay with failing it by any means, but I anticipate it a little bit. So there are 3 ways I'm going to try to make this happen. The first way is I'm doing a low spend year. I know a lot of people do a low spend or a no spend January, and I'm just going to need to be doing that all year long. The amount that I have left on the loan is about $11,000. And my normal payment each month is $385. So that's, just easy math. That's going to be a little, like around a $900 payment each month that I need to be making. So I need to figure out how to make an extra like $500 and change payment each month. And that's a lot of money. So I'm going to be doing a low spend year. I can maybe do another video about like what that entails, what I'm allowing myself to buy since it is for a long span of time, and what I am absolutely not allowing myself to buy during that time. But I don't want to get into that now because it would make the video too long. So the second way, in addition to the low spend year, is I have a 6-month emergency fund set aside, and I finally got some financial literacy last year about savings accounts and moved that into a high yield savings account last year. I think that happened in March. So from March on, it's been earning interest at, it started off at like 4.35%, but I think now it's down to 4% just because of what interest rates have been doing. So the interest earned on that account through the end of this year, 2025, I am planning on putting towards this car loan. So none of that, I'm not touching the emergency fund whatsoever for this, because this is not an emergency. This is a want to pay this down more quickly. But the interest on it, the money that, I wouldn't have been earning if I just kept it in a normal savings account, that's going to be going to the car. And I'm hoping that will maybe bridge any gap that I have at the end of the year. The interest from that will probably amount to about 5 car payments, like 5 months of car payments, minimum payments, not the bigger amounts. So that should get me a little closer. And then the third technique I'm going to use is hopefully establishing a second income stream for myself. So that will help me transition to my next goal, which is in the professional realm and specifically more pertinent to y'all, and that is monetizing this YouTube channel. So when I started the YouTube channel, I was very naive. I didn't know much about YouTube other than just what I liked watching on YouTube, and that I had some very minimal video editing skills from my day job when I used to do a little bit of that on occasion. And I thought, okay, so maybe this is a skill set that I can build and turn it into a side gig, essentially. And I will be doing stuff that I like doing, because I genuinely like doing homemaking stuff. It would not be stressful at all if I just had more time to do it. So I thought that's the best of both worlds, right? Second income stream, doing something I like, gaining some extra marketable skills. Fantastic. I did not realize that there was a kind of minimum requirement of subscribers and watch hours for monetization. So that tells you how little research I did before I did that. But I decided to just go ahead and get started. And so I started mid-October 2024. So I had about a month and a half of posting 2 videos a week. And then I just did a deep dive into Vlogmas for December. And I've taken a couple weeks off. Or I guess it's really only been like a week off. I don't know. Days are hard. But I just did not really know what I was getting myself into. Now, to a certain extent, I know a little bit more. Having the month and a half of regular videos and kind of knowing what I want to do with that and what I wanted to do in the beginning, and then the deep dive in Vlogmas, that's built hopefully my writing skills, editing, and just knowing how YouTube works skills, and it's made me a little bit faster at some of those. So now I actually know what areas I need to focus on to improve the channel. And a lot of people talk about, oh, the algorithm. And there is a little bit of that. I mean, you do need to be keeping in mind, okay, this is a computer program essentially, that is scraping this content and serving it to people. So your content does need to be machine readable to a certain extent so that it can scrape your content and get it to the right people. But really, even if it's getting it to the right people, if your content sucks, that's not going to help anything. So growing the channel, I really want to focus on the community and the audience and serving good content, serving content that I enjoy making, but also serving content that is useful to other people, whether that is through, tutorials or tips and tricks, or whether it's just through making a human connection with folks. Those are all things that people crave and people look for on YouTube. So I will be focusing on that to try to monetize the channel rather than focusing so much on like stats and that sort of thing. Obviously, I'll be working on my titles, be working on my thumbnails so that the SEO is good in it and the videos get picked up and served to the right people. but really enticing people to click on the videos and keeping people watching with valuable content. That's really, there is no trick. That's how the world works, right? So I'll be doing that, and I am super excited for the upcoming year. I realized that I really like doing a series of content. So I have 3 new series that I'm going to be doing this year that I think are going to be great. Otherwise I wouldn't be doing them and spending time on them. The first one is a decluttering series. So I was watching Jamie Chaotic's Vlogmas, and she was doing decluttering, like picking out a slip of paper from a fishbowl and decluttering a small portion of her house for each day of Vlogmas. And that was fantastically entertaining, partially because Jamie's a very entertaining person and her channel's great. You should go check it out if you haven't. But I don't want to copy that exactly, obviously. But it got me to thinking about, could I do a decluttering series? And at first I thought, no, the house isn't too terribly cluttered. But then I really started thinking about it, and there's a long list, folks. There's a long list of like smaller spaces to declutter. So I have already filmed the first video for the year, and it is going to be a decluttering video. And it's going to be in my bedroom closet and my dresser. So we are kicking the decluttering series off strong. These are areas that are very personal to me. I touch them every single day. I am at the end of one season of life and beginning another that is fairly significant, that meant I needed to make significant changes to these areas. So I'm excited to finish editing those and get that up for you this Saturday. So look for that January 4th. If you are interested in that kind of content, please, please, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you get notified when those get posted. But that is just going to be the first in a series of decluttering. And I find decluttering so satisfying, and I find watching decluttering so satisfying. So very much looking forward to that series. The next series I'm planning on working on, which I think is going to be a lot of fun, but it's also going to be a lot of research, is doing either like a homemaking 101 or a learn with me homemaking series. I have been keeping house for myself for a long time now, but there's still so much to learn, and I love learning, and I think it would be awesome to be able to learn some things with y'all. So I'm going to look at a mix of vintage resources and modern resources, and I'll have videos going through like testing out routines, like housekeeping routines, homemaking routines, seeing what works, seeing what does not work, looking at the vintage routines, seeing if those kind of how insane those are for people who actually have jobs outside of the home, and taking the good and kind of making them applicable to the modern world. And I just think it's going to be a whole lot of fun to learn these things. I have a lot of skills that I would like to learn, and I think this will really help me get the breadth of the homemaking niche. There are things in homemaking that I don't do a lot of right now, just for timing purposes. And I think forcing myself to look into those things and to do these things, for a video content, but also to learn for myself, is going to be a lot of fun. So that is another series that I'm planning on doing. And sorry, my hand's shaking a little bit holding this up. And the last series is going to be focusing on frugal and sustainable living and how that relates to homemaking. I am a very big proponent of living sustainably. Frugal is kind of forced upon me to a certain extent, but it's also a large part of sustainability. That has not been as high of a priority for me since I've had kids, just because I've been a little bit in survival mode. But I really want to make that a bigger priority in my life and focus on it, because I also want to teach my kids these skills and these values that, let's not let the water run for forever when we're brushing our teeth. We don't really, water is a shared resource. It's also a resource that we pay for where I live, because I'm on a city water situation. But not just things like that, but helpful things for homemakers that in the end is actually more frugal. A little bit of an investment in the beginning is more frugal, or an investment over time can be more frugal than buying things that are cheaper that don't last as long, or things that aren't reusable. So I really want to refocus on doing better in that part of my life and getting back to more sustainably living. And it also helps you just be more self-supportive, where you don't, like, I live in an area that gets hurricanes. We occasionally get tornadoes here. So sometimes the grocery store just doesn't have stuff. If there's a hurricane that comes through, the agriculture around us is closer to the coast than where I live. If that stuff gets wiped out, there's just no produce for a week or so in the grocery store. So just being a little bit more self-supportive that way too would be great. So those are the 3 areas that I'm going to be or 3 series that I'm really excited to do for the channel this year. So again, the first one was a decluttering series. The second one was like a homemaking learning series. I'm still working on the titles of these. So Homemaking 101 or Learn With Me Homemaking. And the third one is Living Sustainably and More Frugally. So super excited about that. Hopefully doing that and giving good content to y'all and putting that out into the algorithm will gain me enough subscribers and watch hours where I will be able to be monetized by the end of this year. And that will hopefully help me with my first goal. So obviously I realize if those goals end at the same time, if I don't get monetized until December 2025, that is not going to be terribly helpful to my goal of paying off my car loan by December of 2025 as well. But like I said, that first goal is a stretch goal. So if I monetize it all this year, hopefully that will then give me enough of a second income stream where it will be very early the next year where I can pay off my car loan if I miss that by a little bit. All right. Goal number 3 is in the area of personal relationships. Like I said before, I feel like I've been in a little bit of survival mode. So the first area I want to work on is my relationship with my kids. Lately, I have been getting triggered very quickly by like meltdowns, temper tantrums, whatever you want to call them. And that is not what I want to do. So I do subscribe to gentle parenting. Gentle parenting is absolutely not permissive parenting. If I could summarize gentle parenting super quickly, it is holding boundaries calmly. Okay. So setting useful boundaries for the kids and holding those boundaries in a calm manner, coming from a place of love, right? It's not permissive parenting where they just do whatever they want and you're like, well, there are natural consequences that are going to teach them things. Yes, true, there are natural consequences, but I feel like then your child also tends to be a little bit more entitled, and there are not necessarily natural consequences for little kids to things that when you're an adult, you would have societal consequences to, right? And I am just not that chill of a person to do permissive parenting either. So not a parenting channel. You do you, what is right for your family. No judgment for me there. But yeah, so that's why I subscribe to gentle parenting. So it just seems like it is holding boundaries in a calm manner. And I've been having trouble holding boundaries in a calm manner lately. I know some of that is the hormones because breastfeeding and like I'm just getting done with that, and whoa, I was not ready for the hormones that happen when you stop breastfeeding, that hormonal shift, my goodness. And it did not hit at a good time in my cycle either. Overshare, but here we are. The last week has been rough emotionally. I don't think there's been a single day where I haven't cried, so that's been super fun for me. Also not super fun for if my kids are acting up and it's kind of towards the end of the day, because I have not been enforcing boundaries calmly. I do try to take a step back and be really aware of, okay, I am starting to push out my anger or my upset or my frustration on other people, so I need to step back. But sometimes that is stepping back and going somewhere else and then screaming at the top of my lungs just to get out stress. So not a great example. I mean, I guess it's better than hitting people and throwing things. But yeah, trying to set an example so that my kids can learn these skills too, so that they can be better adults than I am. So if you have any tips or tricks for staying calm while parenting your children and not being triggered by things, maybe little mantras or just techniques, that'd be helpful for me, because I'm doing more research and I am practicing the techniques that I have found, But it's just really hard. I mean, I'm 41 years old. It's really hard to change at this point, and I'm very much working on it because it's very important to me. So, be doing research to find those tips and tricks. I also have earplugs again now. They are earplugs where I can still hear exactly what everyone's saying, but it just lowers the decibels enough to take the edge off before the level of noise pushes me over my edge of overstimulation. So that's really helpful. I usually pop those in by the end of the day because I'm just done. I get overstimulated really easily by loud sounds, and I don't want to be that person always shushing excited kids, because excited kids are loud, and yes, like inside voices versus outside voices, but I don't want to squash their excitement at the same time. So that's a me problem, not a them problem. Earplugs help. So I'll be doing that. And then I think those are the only two things I've thought of with my kids. So in my marriage, I do want to work on improving my marriage and making that more of a priority. Like I said, for like the 18th time now. Been in survival mode. My husband and I met later in life, and we dated for about a year after knowing each other for a few months, and got married like 3 months after being engaged. And then we were doing stressful things like trying to sell his house. The day we closed on his house was the day everything shut down in our area because of the pandemic. And then once the pandemic didn't end after like a month, we're like, well, should we wait to have kids? And we decided no, just because of our ages, and we didn't know how long it would take us to get pregnant. And we wanted 2 children. So we got pregnant pretty quickly, very luckily. And yeah, since then it's been a roller coaster ride of having very young children. And we didn't really have that non-stressful honeymoon period in our marriage. And because of that, I never really fully kind of settled into healthy marriage habits before having kids. And then having kids, it's just been like I said, it's just survival mode. You're in the trenches, and that's not a great thing to have super early in your marriage, I don't think, or at least it's not a great thing for me because I don't function well that way. So this year we're kind of crawling out of the trenches a little bit now. So I really want to reprioritize working on my marriage and working on that relationship and building a strong foundation with our marriage and our family. I am not very good at multitasking. I'm very good at single tasking. But if my kids need something, I can hear that from like 500 yards away. But at the same time, I'll be focusing on something with them or doing chores or whatever. And I don't always notice when my husband walks in the room, which is an issue. So I need to research tips and tricks for how to just kind of be more aware of my surroundings when I'm involved in something. I don't know how much of that I'm going to be able to change. If you guys have worked on that or have similar issues, please let me know down below, or let me know some resources that you've used. So that is probably going to be the hardest thing on my list, honestly, just because it's like changing how my brain works to a certain extent. But it's really important. You know, my marriage is very important to me. I love my husband very much, and I want him to get the acknowledgement and attention that he needs out of our relationship. And I feel like I have not been doing a very good job at that thus far. So I'll be working on that. And also our love languages are very different. So how we prefer to receive and give love don't match up terribly well. So just shifting my mindset, that's something that it's just a habit, honestly. Shifting my mindset with that will help. Probably the easiest thing that we can do under this category is we are going to do monthly dates, either a date night or during the day. We had one in December a few days ago while the kids had daycare and we were still both off work. We had a really nice breakfast. We went ice skating and it was wonderful. And it was nice just to be able to focus on each other and our time together. And we have the day that we're going to do our date picked out for January. And my husband planned our December date. So it's my job to plan our January date. So I want to really make sure that we keep up with scheduling those, because I think after January, we are going to need outside childcare outside of our daycare. So I will be working on that and making sure that those are scheduled in conjunction with my husband and that we actually keep to those, because I think they're super important. All right, so that's it. That's not it. That's mostly it for relationships. Just in general for family, I get really caught up in needing to do chores and have the house in order because I do not do well with visual clutter, visual distractions. And like, it actually stresses me out to have things around. I think there's a part I'm going to leave in the video for this Saturday where you will see where there's a little bit of like clutter in the room where I'm filming, and it's so hard to ignore. I keep getting distracted by it. So I find it very hard to pause in the moment and leave things that I am doing that need to be done that are stressing me out, and then go and like play and relax and spend time with my family. So I need to get way better at that, because the chores are not more important than my family. That's a me problem. I need to learn how to deal with the stress of that and not letting that stress me out so much. So I would be working on pausing, allowing myself to leave things be undone and not allowing them to stress me out. And in that same realm, also just being really present with my family, and for the times when I really do need to be getting something done, involving my family in doing that, asking for their help, trying to gamify the chores a little bit. My husband is really great at that, and I really, really suck at it so bad. So I need to learn how to do that, because I also want to teach them how to do chores and help out around the house. I mean, they're going to be their own they're individuals now, but they're going to eventually grow up and leave our house at some point and be responsible for themselves and be responsible for their own homes. So both my daughter and son need to be able to live independently and know how to do these things for themselves, and also to be helpful partners for if they end up with someone in the future. All right, so that's it for relationships. Lots of relationship work this year. I feel like that's going to be the toughest thing for me, because it is more of a mindset change rather than just like a research and do change. But it's very important. The last area that I have goals in is physical health. So I have gotten in a bad habit of eating way more processed foods than I should. Traditionally, my diet has always been fairly good, because I've been very active in the past. I like hobbies that are very active, and I'm talking in the past before I was pregnant and breastfeeding ad nauseum for years. But I grew up doing dance, being very active. I did fencing in college. I did competitive dancing again as an adult. I went hiking. I went backpacking. After I became too old to continue dancing competitively, I did running, and I really enjoyed that. And I kind of weaned myself off of those a little bit, because I was a little bit too active for wanting to be able to get pregnant. And so I had to step back from that, and I really miss doing those things and miss how good I feel when I was doing those things. But it was necessary, because when I was breastfeeding and when I was pregnant, it was essentially my job to get in calories. Just genetically, I tend towards thinness. I have a very high metabolism, and most people are like, woo, like not something to complain about. And I'm not complaining about it. It's just, it made it very difficult to get in the number of calories that I needed to get in while pregnant, while breastfeeding, because those are very high calorie need times of your life, right? So eating became a job for me, and to make that job easier, because I was getting too full before I got enough calories based on my normal diet, that made me feel good while I was active. I started leaning more on processed foods, like processed snack foods, processed treats, and it was purely just to get the calories, and of course because they taste delicious. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, they're delicious. But I've gone a little bit too far down that road. I'm done breastfeeding now, so I really need to get off the processed food chain, or not totally get off of it, but you know, because there's balance in everything. but just lessen it quite a bit. So I'm eating more of my normal pre-pregnancy non-breastfeeding diet again. So that's another thing I'm going to be working on. I'm hoping to cook more. We actually cook quite a bit. We don't eat out very much. It's more of me going to the store and buying snacks for myself. So I'm going to make sure that I'm not buying outside snacks. I'm just going to be doing a regular grocery shop. I will have some snacks in there, but it's going to be more like fruits and lower processed foods. Like, I'm going to get off the ding dongs, right? You know, I'm not going to be buying boxes of ding dongs and Pop-Tarts and stuff like that anymore. There are better choices to make, right? So I'll be cognizant of that while shopping, while meal planning, and meal prepping, making sure there are enough leftovers where if I feel hungry between meals, I can just have some leftovers or a piece of fruit and some cheese, and, you know, these sorts of things. The snacks that I used to have, yogurt parfaits, delicious, right? But those snacks take more effort than grabbing a ding dong out of a box, right? So I'll be doing that. I also want to expand our garden just a little bit. I say garden like we have a garden. We don't really. We have 3 blueberry bushes, and then last year we also planted strawberries, and they did really well. So we have a strawberry bed area. We have blueberry bushes. And then during the pandemic, we actually did have a garden, and that garden has gotten completely overrun. So I will do a video of cleaning out our garden area so that we can have it ready to go when it's time to plant in the spring here, because we actually have quite a long growing season in central North Carolina. I think we're in zone 7B. Maybe they updated that. I know there was an update last year, I think. But I need to clean out that bed so that we can plant some stuff. And I also want to do it because my kids really like checking the blueberry bushes, checking the strawberry plants, and harvesting from those. And it gets them really excited about growing food. And those are also skills that I want to learn, right? So we'll be focusing on a little expansion of the garden, not too much because it is a lot of work and I just don't have the kind of time to do it. So baby steps in that arena. All right, the other part of physical health is not just nutrition, but it's also exercise. So I want to get back to a more active exercise routine. I was really good most of the year with getting an average of 10,000 steps a day, except for November and December. I definitely fell off the wagon. So for the first maybe month or two, I'm going to make sure that I get back up to averaging about 10,000 steps a day. I prefer to look at it on a weekly and monthly basis rather than daily basis, because there are days when I just have a crap ton of work to do at my computer and I can't get in 10,000 steps those days. Or maybe I'm not feeling well. You know, we need to have a little bit of flexibility without feeling disappointed in ourselves. And the way that I found I function best for that is to aim for 7,000 steps a week and just keep track of the weekly steps rather than getting down on myself if I fall short on my daily steps one day. This way I know I can make it up during the week, and then the monthly steps help me keep on track with that as well. So I will be ramping back up to that. I'm going to be introducing strength and mobility training back into my life because I'm in my 40s. I need that. I'm much less flexible and much less strong. Like I said before, just genetically I tend towards thinness. That means that I lose muscle mass very quickly. I also, if I am working out, tend to gain muscle mass quickly. So I've got that going for me, which is fantastic. But I need to put in the work to make it happen. Otherwise, I just thin out to not being healthy. And my daughter's about 35 pounds now. My son's about 25 pounds. So that is 60 pounds of child that I sometimes have to carry together. And I don't want to throw out my back doing that. Honestly, my core is so weak after having 2 kids and not getting back on a proper exercise routine. So strength training and mobility training will be the first thing I add back in after I get my steps back up to a normal level. And then after that, I do want to get back into the running. That may be in the latter half of the year, just because obviously I don't want to hurt myself. I need to get that strength and that mobility training up to snuff first. And the first month of running always just absolutely sucks. I'm not naturally good at running, but I do enjoy when after that first month, I'm able to kind of get into that zone. I like running outside. I like running like on multi-use trails and just taking in nature, and that's my outside time. That it just really makes me happy, and I find I can obviously travel more distance than I can while hiking if I'm running on a trail. So I want to get into that, but that's probably going to be later this year, when I'm more physically fit to be able to do it without hurting myself and getting injured. So those are my goals for this year. So just a little wrap up overview. The first one was paying off my car loan. The second one was growing my YouTube channel and community to the point of getting monetized. The third one was working on my relationships, being a calmer, more patient, more compassionate parent while still holding those boundaries, just being more emotionally mature in that way so I can teach my kids. And then working on my marriage, which has taken lower priority than it really should, honestly. So trying to course correct there and build the marriage that I would like to have going forward. And then the fourth one that we just talked about, it's physical health, you know, improving my diet and getting back into my exercise routine. So y'all will hopefully be able to see some of that on the channel, especially the things I talked about, where we're going with the channel. Those 3 new series, the decluttering series, the Learn With Me homemaking style of series, and the frugal sustainable living series. I am so super excited about that, and to have you guys along with me and hopefully grow the community and get a lot of new people in here. And hopefully I will be able to reach these goals and do really well. I'm feeling very positive, very motivated right now about them. So I'm going to get off recording this and get to it. All right, thank you so much for watching to the end. Please subscribe, please hit the notification bell. I love you all. I will see you again next time. Bye.